Save My Piggies, Your Life, Your Limb, Your Story, with host Dr. John Phillips and Kim McNicholas.
Hi,
Hi,
Rachel. Thank you.
hiya. Nice to meet you. So basically 6 years ago, I started getting a lot of cramps in the legs. The walking became an issue. I went to the GP, and because my thoracic disc came out in my back and I had it fixed and I've got two discs out at the bottom, they kept putting it down to trapped nerves or sciatica, and just told me to do what I was doing, keep taking the medication. And then 4 years ago, we was out with the dogs and I was walking, and that was it. It was just a complete stop. I phoned the doctors while I was stood there, and they said, if you can get here. I said, well, I've got no chance. My legs won't move. It was like my legs were in a cement bag. We finally got to the doctors a few hours later. He had a look at me, checked my feet, and said he couldn't find a pulse in either foot. So I was rushed straight off to the hospital. Did all the scans, and they said that I had blockages in both legs. They told me to walk, see if we could get it going, but obviously the walking became a huge issue for me. It started to increasingly get worse. I had to stop work. And then last year I had an angioplasty in the left leg because they said the left was worse than the right. Within 3 weeks it failed. I went straight back and said, look, this pain's come back in the calf. I feel like my leg's going to explode. And they said, yes, it's failed. So the surgeon that I saw said I couldn't have a stent because I've got an allergy to nickel. And then they rescheduled the surgery for June this year. And I was on the table and I was screaming from start to finish. They told me it'd be 40 minutes long. I was on the table for over 4 hours. Something went wrong halfway through. Everyone was rushing out. He said, we need to do a thing called an up and over and put a puncture in the right side and go back through. He said it was blocked right up to my groin. So anyway, I went home. I felt great. The left leg felt amazing. Once again, obviously getting over the surgery, that's one part. I went back 3 weeks later and said, something doesn't feel right. I'm in a lot of pain. They told me that they'd done muscle damage and nerve damage, but everything seemed fine. 2 weeks ago, I rang them back up again and I said, look, you're going to think I'm going mad, but something's really off with my leg. The pain is worse than it ever was. So they said, come down. I went down. The nurse seemed very patronizing, and I was starting to get really upset and emotional because I felt like she didn't believe me. She said she finally found a pulse in my foot and said, oh, that seemed great. And then I thought to myself, I can't leave here without help because I suffer a lot with a lot of other problems. And my doctor walked past and I said, Mrs. Khan, I said, please, can I just speak to you for a minute? I said, I feel like this lady doesn't believe me. And her exact words to me was, you was only here 2 weeks ago and we scanned you and everything was fine. I said, but anything can happen. I said, I wouldn't be here if I didn't need to be. I'm in absolute agony. I'm struggling to walk around my house. I can't get up the stairs. I'm actually living in my dining room. I've got a toilet next door, which is just handy, and the kitchen's there. So anyway, she went to the scan lady and said, yeah, they can fit you in. And I said to the lady, if anything's wrong, please just nod your head, because then I know it's not in my head. She nodded her head. I came out. Mrs. Khan says, can you take a seat? She said, I'm really sorry to tell you, but the stent's collapsed in the bottom half of your leg. And I said, what stent? I didn't even know I had a stent put in. I was told I couldn't have one. She said, well, I wasn't your surgeon. I don't know. So she said, all I know is we're going to have to take veins out of both arms on your leg, because I did have a scan last year and they said my veins weren't very good. I got this letter from her, and this is what's so confusing. So the man rung me up after the surgery and I said to him, what are you going to do about the right leg? And he said to me, just walk. That'll cure it. And I said, you're having a laugh, aren't you? How can I walk when I'm having problems still with this leg? And I was getting so upset. And I said, all right, just leave it. I'll speak to you in 6 months. The letter came, I tore it up. And then I got this other letter from her saying that I reviewed Rachel in clinic. She was previously diagnosed with bilateral SFA occlusions. She then went to have a left-sided FFA angioplasty and stent in early June. Immediately post-procedure on the 9th of June, she had a duplex scan that showed the vessel in patient since, however, has had increasing rest pain, and where she is having no sleep, back in the chair, barely gets any sleep, doesn't get around the house, and the pain's come back with a vengeance. On examining her today, her foot looked ischemic, if I've said that right, and therefore requested a duplex scan, but it wasn't her, it was me that requested it. She had a reading of 73. I don't understand all these numbers. That shows that she is got occluded, and she has a monophasic flow in her lower leg and foot, which would explain her symptoms. Technically, Rachel needs a left-sided fem-pot bypass, but unfortunately, on previous scan, her left-sided long staphenous vein is very poor in calibre. And at the time, we also scanned the arms, and these also show that they are unsuitable.
Wow.
So we had it, and I nearly passed out. I needed a fan because I was on my own. My husband was trying to park the car, couldn't park at the Queen's because it's so bad. And I just felt I've been feeling so alone for a long time.
I imagine, when you're in that much pain, and we talk here in the US about legislation that if you have these high risk factors, that they're looking at being more proactive in offering, the testing for PAD sooner, when walking as medicine is incredibly effective. But sometimes when you get to the point of critical limb ischemia, such as what you've experienced, that, for some, walking, they can, get that mental grip and push through it, but not everyone can. And it's not that anyone is any less of a person. Every single person presents differently. And actually, some patients do not grow collateral vessels as well as others. And there's still so much learning that researchers are doing in this case. I would imagine if you would have known sooner that you had this, that walking would have been something that you would have done 30 minutes every day.
Yeah, no one believed me. And I was working 12 hours a day as a chef. I was on my feet constantly. I'd come home, walk the dogs, do the dinner. I was healthy. Everything was fine. But my mum had this, my mum's sisters. Unfortunately, I've lost my mum. A heart attack finished my mum off, bless her. And she was only 52. And I'm obviously scared that I'm going to go down that route. But when she told me this in that office 2 weeks ago, she said to me, if we don't do something, you'll lose your lower limb in months. But if we do something and something happens, you could still lose it. So I'm very confused. I saw the anaesthetist last week, and he said, because obviously my diabetes isn't that good. I mean, I take over 107 tablets a day. I take such a crazy amount. It's scary. And that's my life. Good job. I like being at home, and I'm a home person. I've got a great husband, but I just feel very alone in this. And after speaking to her and what I've just told you, it's like everything's changed. And this letter that came today is now saying, unfortunately, she's not suitable for further and vascular treatment, and therefore considering for a prosthetic femoral something bypass with a vein cuff. I mean, what the heck's that? That wasn't even discussed. I've got no idea what this is. So
It's really important when we're dealing with PAD, and this is such a great representation of it. It's sad, but we see it a lot where, there needs to be so much more education that is provided by a care team, not simply in a letter, but in person, having a candid discussion. It can't be done in 15 minutes. It could take 30 minutes to an hour to really sit down and explain and work on a strategy, right? Procedures are not the end all be all. And as we've talked about, and even VJ talked about, it's, and what your situation exemplifies, once you have one procedure and then it's another, and it becomes this revolving door. And that's why it's so important to start the process with 3 months of medicine and a regimented walking program, making sure that the diabetes is under control, because even one sugar molecule can continue to cause damage to the vessel, leading to those, small LDL particles kind of getting in there and pushing the vessel wall out and creating more narrowing, more blockages, right?
I mean, wanted to come on here today because not only do I find you inspirational, but the group has been so kind to me whenever I've posted on Facebook and helped me through some really dark times. But they've left it in my hands to make the decision what to do, because they're saying, because I'm on a lot of pain medication after having such a big operation, their meds are just the same as the meds I'm on with the morphine. So therefore the pain's going to be so hard to keep under control. And then he's worried about infection and me being in hospital for months. But is it better the devil you know, or the better the devil you don't? Do I do it? Do I not do it? Do I risk losing my leg in a few months? What do I do? I really don't know.
In talking and listening to Kevin and VJ, is there any hope, or do you feel motivated at all to give a little extra push and taking yet another step? We don't know if it's the solution. In your case, no one does. But is that something in hearing?
Well,
For them, the pain is excruciating, but they're pushing through it. There's a difference between, good pain and bad pain. You don't want to injure yourself, but there is a line.
yeah, I mean, I go out with the dogs every day. We've got 9 dogs. We live right on the woods, so we just open the gate and we go. I try, but I am not even getting past 2 bus lengths now. I was able to walk a lot further before I had to stop, but now it's like I'm becoming like I'm walking on the moon, and I'm literally coming to this really slow stop, and then I'm crying and I'm angry and I want to push through it, but I can't. It's
Yeah.
so hard.
And so many can relate to you who are watching this right now. And I just appreciate you sharing your experience. We are not going to have a resolution to this. We don't know what the ending is going to be at this point. And I think that that's why it was so important that you courageously, you're going to make me cry too. You courageously came forward, and you're sharing. I can see tears in other people's eyes as well. We appreciate
Comment.
you so much. And Douglas, did you want to jump in? You have something to say.
Yeah, I just want you to know, Valerie, that you have every single one of us in this group standing behind you, beside you,
Thank
behind
you.
you, and we're helping holding you up. And if you want to get up and walk around the living room, get a hold of me. I will walk back and forth in this trailer with you until you can't walk, and then we'll take one extra step with you. Just
Thank you.
realize you are not alone. We are, every single one of us here are with you, and we got you, okay?
I know, but when they don't believe you and tell you to walk, and it's like, hold on a minute, something's wrong, and they don't believe you. And I don't. A lot of it, they kept saying it's your age, you're too young. Why am I too young? Anyone can get anything these days. It's just very hard, very hard. But
Yeah.
We're,
And
we're with you.
Don Marie wants to say a little something too. Don Marie, do you want to jump in? I can see Don Marie it has tears in her eyes as well. Don Marie, go ahead and unmute.
I'm with you. I'm 45 and I lost my leg. So, and there's somebody else here the same age. So we definitely know what you're going through. So you're
Yes,
definitely
sunshine
not
is here.
alone. Yeah, you're not alone. So when they say you're young, yeah, I couldn't even get into Walmart to go past their little gate to even enter the store. And I would be crying and my legs would cramp. So I know what you mean. My feet were going to break. It felt like someone was snapping my ankles in half. So
it's,
I definitely know what you're going through.
I don't go
Definitely.
out because I get embarrassed. People look at me, how I walk, when I just have to stop because of the cramps. My foot's twisting, my toes bending back, and I feel like everyone's staring at me. They're probably not. It's probably all in my head. But I'm only 43. I really don't have a life.
Well, you need to get past what other people think because they don't know what you're going through. And I know what you're going through. And that's how I felt. So I ended up in a wheelchair. But then my life in a wheelchair chasing children got to be too difficult. So I had surgery. But later on in this program, you'll hear my story about why I lost my leg. Mine was a different case. Yours is different from mine. So when you hear my story, I don't want that to have any impediment on what your decision later on your treatment is. But mine was different because I have something we didn't know about, but we'll leave it for later on. But you're never alone. There's so many people out there going through this, and
Yeah.
and you're close to my age, so I know. I had a heart attack. I have 3 stents in my heart. I still have a diseased other leg. Like, so there's still the unknown out there. I'm in the same boat. Like, I have a prosthetic, it cramps. My right leg cramps the same way it was cramping when I had 2 legs. And I stop and I cry. And you know what? I say, I don't care what these people think, because you know what? They're not in my situation.
Yeah.
So they can look at me with the tears going through, and I don't care. I've gotten that skin over the last 2 years that I could care what you think, because I'm living my life to the most I can with my kids. I'm out there food shopping on my own, in a wheelchair with one leg, pushing the carriage. You can do it. You can't sit there and have that look like, oh, I'm in this situation, my life is over. It is not. You're breathing. You're here. You know what I mean? You're here and you're not alone. You're never alone. Never
I
alone.
mean, I lost my dad shortly after my mum. My grandma's just died at Christmas. I mean, it's just so sad.
You
It
don't
really-
have anybody around you now like that, but you have you're not alone. Like, you could take my number. I've already helped other people go through this. My cousin's girlfriend lost her leg right after I lost mine, but she lost it in a car accident. And you know what? I gave her my phone number, and she was calling me at 4 a.m. Like, I can't do this. And I was right there for her, because you're not alone. Like, everything you're going through, I'm going through.
I mean, my
You know,
husband.
so you're
And
not alone. I lost
I-
my husband at 35 from diabetes.
Wow.
Like, so
that's the
I
thing,
mean,
that's the thing, Valerie, where we can say you're not alone, because Kim lost her mother. In the last 2 years, I lost my mother and my sister, dealing
I
with
watched the
everything I've
nursing
been
home.
through.
The
But
nursing home killed my grandmother. I watched that. Like, we're all in this together, honey. I don't want you to ever think you're alone, because you're not alone.
you
It
lot all,
takes you to reach out to us, though. Like, it's going to take what's in you to reach out to us, because everybody everybody's gone through some. I smile every day, but girlfriend, this is fake. This
mask.
is
Yeah,
fake.
yeah,
It's fake. I
yeah.
cry, I break down. I still question God. Like, why my leg? I say, why my leg, not an arm? Because
Yeah.
I could still walk and run after the kids. What kills me is when I go to the park and my daughter says to me, Mommy, push me in the swing. There's one thing I can't do. Can't push her in the swing. Can't get to the swing in the wheelchair. But life is still doable. But you have to reach out. Like, you can't say you're alone, because there's many of us. Like, I'm telling you right now, I'm here for you, but you need to reach out for me. So
Thank
after this, you find out from Kim, and I'm there for you. I'm there for anybody, because that's the only way to get through it. You can't get through it alone. And I probably got boogers going down my face. I didn't even grab tissues, because you made me cry. I was staying strong. I was staying strong, but you made
I
me cry, because don't think you're alone.